What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the best boneshatter Smith of Kitava warrior build in Path of Exile 2. This setup revolves around scaling boneshatter self-damage into a power to then further convert it into huge damage numbers. The core gameplay loop involves around initiating combat with a leap slam to prime enemies for stun, which is then followed by detonating them with the boneshatter for massive AoV damage. It's a high risk, high reward type of playstyle, where the more you slam, the stronger you get, but you've gotta be tough enough to take the initial damage. For gear, we are going to be focusing on high armor and two-handed maces. That will boost our big slam bonuses even more. So we'll be extremely tanky with amazing upgrades and scaling into the endgame, and with amazing clear speed, and bosses will melt in seconds under our insane AoV pressure. So if you like aggressive melee playstyle and don't mind taking few hits to dish out triple or even quadruple the normal build's damage, then the Smith of Kitava warrior build is definitely for you. So let me show you the build, and for the main class we are going with warrior and our ascendancy is Smith of Kitava. Then for the first skill we have Mage Strike with the support gems like the Ruthless, Overpower and Close Combat. Then second we got the boneshatter with the Impact Shockwave, Magnified Effect and Reach. Next we got Infernal Cry with Premeditation and Raging Cry. Next we have Perfect Strike with the Window of Opportunity, Fire Infusion and Execute. Then for the next one we have Herald of Ash with Cannibalism. Next we got Leap Slam with the Martial Tempo, Bring, Holy Descent and Candace. Next we have Scavenge Plating with Persistence. Then also we got Hammer of the Gods with Concentrated Effect, Heavy Swing, Brutality and Fist of War. Next up we have Seismic Cry with the Raging Cry and Enraged Cry. And finally we are using Berserk with no support gems. Most of this setup is structured around spamming boneshatter to delete enemies in split seconds, so we use gems and skills that will support and increase their duration, size and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Next we also have a leveling build in case if you are watching this video when starting your journey from level 1 and you want to use it up until about level 25. So first off we have Mage Strike with the Ruthless and Overpower. Then next we have Boneshatter with the Impact Shockwave and Magnified Effect. Next we have Earthquake with the Bloodlust and Unbreakable. And finally we're using Infernal Cry with Premeditation. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you're interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at this melee damage node, and then go like this while taking these two, so Brutal and Smash. Then next keep going until we get these two, so Blood Rush on the right and Unstoppable Barrier on the left. Then from here keep on going until we get to the Singular Purpose. Then afterwards go until this point and then go up top right here until we get the Resolute technique. Next up circle back a little and then keep going until the end and then go to the bottom. And keep going until we get these two, so Bruised Shanked and the Giant's Blood. And then finally from here I recommend to go up top right here and get all of these. And then get the rest of them, but to be honest, after the second keystone, the rest nodes are more of a personal preference. All of these nodes that we got are very useful, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority, as they're the most important ones to acquire early on in the game, to make our build functional, and then later on, the priority won't really matter that much. Also, as far as attributes go, you just simply won't fulfill your attribute requirements for gear and gems, and then after that spend the rest in Strength. On top of this, we also have Jewels, and my main recommendation is to use any type of ruby gem, so pretty much anything that gives us more strength, physical damage, and any type of survivability will work fine as long as you adjust it to your own personal needs. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for Ascendancy build, this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the Cold Stalker. This will give us a huge resistance boost in order to easily reach 75% elemental resistances during the campaign and make our fight super easy. Then second we want the Forge in Flames, that boosts our elemental resistances now to 90%. As this new update is much harder, so focusing more on survivability at the start will really pay off later in the game. And then next we want the Smith's Masterwork and go with the leather bindings, Molten Symbol, Glowing Metal and the Kitavan engraving. All of these will give us 5% regen, which makes the boss fights much easier. Then also Body Armor gives us 25% physical damage from hits, then we get 5% more max fire resistance from armor, and our Body Armor even further gives us 15% increased max life. And by the way, this website was bugged for some reason, so that's why you can't see that I've selected these Ascendancy nodes on the website. Next up we have our Atlas tree, and the general idea behind this is to aim for bonus passives that spawn a lot of grouped up monsters, like in expeditions or in rituals. So when we start, we wanna first of all go to the left side and get all of these nodes until the high road, but of course on your way get the ecological shift, and then lastly go all the way to the middle and then get these top nodes. But then on top of this we also have sub passives, and their order in which you unlock them doesn't really matter, so this time it's up to you. And this is how it should look like for the ritual. Then next we have Delirium, then third we have bosses, then on top of that we have pinnacle bosses, then next we also have our expedition setup, and then finally our breach setup. Next we have gear. The weapon of our choice is the disintegrating maul, which causes enemies to explode on critical kills, then adds physical damage, increased physical damage, more accuracy, increased attack speed and reduced attribute requirements. Then also we got an offhand called the Goldwork Tower Shield with armor, and for more we want increased block chance, max life, physical damage reduction, and fire and lightning resistance. Then for helmet we have the Great Helm with armor, and for more we got even more armor, accuracy rating, max life, increased critical hit chance, mortar strength and chaos resistance. Then for chest we have the Ornate plate with armor, and for more we get that our max life get generated from 1.5 to 2.5% max life per second, plus additional life regen every 4 seconds that gives us 15% max life. Then also we get even more max life and fire resistance. Then for belt we have the White belt with increased flask charges, max life, max mana, more strength and fire resistance. Then for gloves we get the Empire Grasp with armor, and for more we get increased armor, more strength, gain life every kill and increased global physical damage. However, this unique is not required for this build to work, so if you can afford it or get it, then try to look for something similar. Then for boots we're using the Carved Greaves with armor, and for more we get increased movement speed, max life, max mana, mortar strength and stun threshold. Then for first ring we got the Ruby ring with fire resistance, adds cold damage to attacks, max mana, mortar strength and even more fire resistance. While then for the second one we have the same Ruby ring, but this time with fire resistance, max life, adds physical damage, more to all attributes and lightning resistance. And then finally for amulet we have the Jade amulet with dexterity, max life, max mana, more to spirit, more dexterity and fire and cold resistance. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. This is the best case scenario setup, which should be more of an example of what stats and prefixes to look for. Then next we have runes. During early item progression, most gear should be socked with resistant runes. However, once your elemental resistances have been capped and resistant runes are no longer necessary, then you want to opt in to increase your maximum life with body runes or consider socketing a soul core. So right now on my weapon I got 2 iron runes, then on shield I got 1 desert rune, while on my helmet and boots I got body runes, and lastly for gloves and chest piece we have the desert runes. Then on top of this we need to quickly look into the charms. Charms are incredibly useful, as by having the right one equipped at the right time can save you from dying. If you are struggling with certain bosses, then look into what damage type they're using, and then use that specific charm to increase your resistance. For me personally, I like to use the stone charm for stuns. Then second, get the Taving charm for when you become frozen. And then finally, we want a Metesh charm for chaos damage. But as I've said, which one you choose will entirely depend on the enemies that you are fighting. So feel free to experiment and mix and match. Another important decision is Anointment, so first up we want Relentless. This is a powerful passive node that focuses on enhancing mobility, damage and sustained action during combat, which makes it a great choice for any build that thrives on staying active and engaged in fights. Or then second of all we got Relentless Vindicator. This increases critical hit chance and increases our overall damage, which is also super powerful. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. This build's core gameplay centers around managing stun threshold and detonating enemies in rapid high impact bursts. The general approach to clearing is to leap into packs using the Leap Slam, which builds heavy stun on enemies. Once enough stun is built, so 40% for normal, 60 for magic, 70 for rares, and 80 for uniques, then enemies become primed, which is visually indicated by a glowing orb above them. You then want to trigger the boneshatter, which detonates prime enemies and causes large AoE damage and potentially chaining skills across entire groups. Any enemies that survive this initial wave, such as the stragglers, can be finished off by using the Mace Strike, or follow that up by the Leap Slam. Then however, against tougher rare monsters that resist splash damage, then Hammer of the Gods is your go-to for direct hits and cleanup. Then for bosses and single target scenarios, this build will shift towards calculated burst windows, so you will need to rotate between the perfect strike and the hammer of the gods, and then boosting their impact even further with Infernal Cry and Seismic Cry for maximum uptime and AoV reach. Bosses with mobility or higher resistance are first of all softened up by Mage Strike to build stun, and then hammered with the boneshatter for the kill. When possible, you even can tank hits on purpose to fuel the additional perfect strikes and increase our overall damage output. As you can tell, this playstyle revolves around precision timing, positioning, and quick decision making, so things like animation cancelling via the dodge roll will let you leap and slam, while keeping your mobility very high. So let me know what you think about this build in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, then you definitely don't want to miss my previous top 3 best new builds video, where I showed even more powerful builds, so click the screen now and I'll see you in the next one.